Today we'll be using an example to help us illustrate how to solve a polynomial inequality using a sign chart. The example that we have here is a third-degree polynomial, and our job is going to be to find the values of x that when substituted into this polynomial will make the polynomial less than or equal to 0. To do that, our first step is going to be to find where this polynomial equals 0, and we're going to go ahead and find that by factoring. So note that these three terms each have a factor of x, so I'll begin by factoring out that x. That will become x times the quantity x squared minus 8x plus 16. The quadratic inside the parentheses is also factorable, so I'm going to go ahead and factor that into x minus 4 times x minus 4. In factored form, we can easily see that this polynomial will equal 0 whenever x equals 0 coming from the first factor, whenever x equals 4 coming from the second factor, and whenever x equals 4 coming from the third factor. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these three factors in this polynomial to help create this thing called a sign chart. To make a sign chart, we're going to begin by drawing a number line. So here's my number line. And we're going to place on the number line the values of x that make this polynomial equal 0. And those values will be 0 and 4. Now these are the values of x that make it 0, so those are going to be values of x that actually work in this inequality, because at 0 the left hand side will equal 0, and this does say less than or equal to 0. So I'm going to begin by putting some big dots right here. X equals 0 is going to be part of our solution. X equals 4 will also be part of our solution because those are values of x that make it equal 0. And the problem asks us to find less than or equal to 0. So then comes the less than. So what does it mean to be less than 0? Numbers that are less than 0 are numbers that are negative. So what I want to know is where is this polynomial negative, and I can find that by creating this thing called a sign chart. Now this number line that I've drawn here is divided into three regions. Those regions that are to the left of 0, the region that's between 0 and 4, and the region to the right of 4. To create a sign chart, I'm going to choose a number in each of those regions, and I'm going to find out if the polynomial in that region is positive or negative. For example, I'm going to choose a number to the left of 0. I'll choose, say, negative 2. When you plug a negative 2 into the polynomial, we can either plug it in all the way back up here at the original step, or an easier way would be to plug it in factored form. And remember, all I care is whether it's positive or negative. So I'm not going to actually keep track of the number itself. I'm only going to keep track of whether it's positive or negative. For example, with the negative 2, when I plug it into this first factor, since there's nothing to do with the negative 2, it'll just be negative 2, which is a negative number. So I'm just going to write a negative here. When you plug a negative 2 into the second factor, negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. I don't really care about the 6. I only care that it's negative, so I'll write a negative here. And when I plug it in here, it'll be negative 2 minus 4 again, which is negative 6, which is a negative. And with parentheses here implies multiplication, so I'm multiplying all of these things together. When you multiply a negative number by a negative number by a negative number, the result is a negative number. So I'm going to say that for any value to the left of 0 on a number line, the polynomial will be negative. I'm going to put a little negative symbol in the sign chart. Next, I'll choose a number in the second region, which is the numbers between 0 and 4. Now, there are choices, lots of choices between 0 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and choose a 1. When I choose 1, which is in between 0 and 4, when I plug 1 into this first factor, it's 1, and 1's a positive number. When I plug it in the second factor, I have 1 minus 4, which is negative 3. That's a negative number. When I plug it in the third factor, 1 minus 4 is negative 3. That's a negative number. And again, all multiplication. So positive times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to go ahead and put a plus here. Finally, the number to the right of 4, I'll choose 5. Again, 5 is positive. 5 minus 4, that's also positive. 5 minus 4, that's also positive. A positive times a positive times a positive is a positive. Finally, I can go back to my sign chart now and analyze my results. And here's what I need to know. I need to know where the polynomial is less than 0, which means it's negative, or equals 0, which happens at 0 and 4. Here's where it's less than 0. Here's where it's equal to 0. So in interval notation, my final answer would be from negative infinity to 0, union from 4 to 4. Those are the region of values. Any numbers in this region will make this polynomial less than or equal to 0.